What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. And today we're talking college football bets, specifically week one, the Thursday slate. Don't you worry, we have betting you already out discussing the full slate. We are also going to have individual VODs for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, as well as all of the upcoming weeks, individually broken down by the day. So don't you worry. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. And last housekeeping note, something you guys need to take advantage of. Caesars has a phenomenal deal for you guys right now. Right now, you can bet $50 and get $250 in bonus bets. These will be split into $50 increments, $50 coming immediately after the initial $50 cash wager settles, then another $50 into your account each of the next 4 Mondays. You must use each $50 within 7 days of receiving it. The legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But also, please take advantage of these promos. The free money can go a long way to your bankroll. All right, Thursday night, we've got a short slate as far as FBS on FBS. We're not going to labor ourselves with some of the FCS action. I mean, we're recording this on Wednesday, and most books don't even have FCS lines out. I will say, Elon, little sneaky. Keep an eye out. But we're going to kick things off with maybe a larger blowout to the Elon game. UCF taking on Kent State. Currently, you've got UCF as a minus 37 favorite. The total in the game is 56, and it is going down, seeing 55.5s and some 55s. This game has moved a lot in general. UCF opened around minus 30. Now they're up to 37. That's largely because Kent State might be the worst team in college football. No exaggerations here. They lost their head coach. They bring in Kenny Burns, the former Minnesota RB's coach. And their team just got ravaged by the portal. They lose almost all of their starters. It's absolutely incredible the number of players that they're replacing. And they don't have the powers of the transfer portal themselves to really fall back on. This is Kent State we're talking about, not Alabama. They can't just go out there and get the best players. So it's, in my lifetime, maybe the most rebuilt team I've ever seen, and that's including Colorado. And Colorado did it by choice. Kent State is doing it out of necessity. On the other side, UCF, this team is going to be awesome again. They return all of their premier players. You've got Rice Plumlee back, a stable of running backs, 2 of your top receivers in Javon Baker and Kobe Hudson. You bring in Gamage from Marshall to fill those woes. And on defense, this team is going to be absolutely awesome too. Last year, they were already pretty good and expecting improvements here. I think UCF can name their score, but they're entering Big 12 play. I don't know how much they really want to show against Kent State. My preferred play is the under here. Don't think Kent State scores much. UCF is going to run a run-centric game plan, especially with Hinshaw coming in as OC. He's the former UAB OC, and they had about a 70% run right there. New clock rules should favor this game going fast and going towards the under. So I'm going to go under 56, 55.5 if that's your number, as the best bet here for UCF and Kent State, and this is one I did play myself. Next one, NC State takes on UConn. UConn is a 14.5 point dog here. The total in the game is 46.5. UConn has taken a lot of money, and this is a really weird game to talk about. A lot of changes on both sides, and more of them come on the NC State side. Robert Anae is the new OC. He actually worked with Brennan Armstrong, new transfer coming in from Virginia back in 2021. Took a little stop in Syracuse. Really good season there as well, Anae had. But again, the biggest news here is you're reuniting Armstrong with Anae, and we saw a really, really big step back for Armstrong without him in 2022. That was behind a horrific Virginia offensive line. But now, aside from Armstrong, you've got Jordan Houston, Michael Allen at running back. They need to play better. I mean, last year, this team was 42nd in run blocking, and these two guys didn't do anything. So this is not a strength. Receiver, you lose Thayer Thomas, Devin Carter, and Daryl Jones. I think this is probably a neutral position group. You do bring in Bradley Rosner from Rice, but Keon Lassane and Porter Rooks are probably the guys you lean on here. Your top 3 tight ends return. Offensive line, you lose Chandler Zavala, Grant Gibson, and your swing tackle. So you do have 4 guys back with starting experience. They were all pretty good, but I mean, Zavala was your best player. Gibson was second best. I mean, these are 2 really good linemen you lose. The question for me is, can UConn really take advantage here? And I'm not sure. A surprise to me, they listed Joe Fagnano as the starter. He's a main transfer. This is at quarterback. I was expecting Taquan Roberson. Running back is going to be really strong here. Devontae Houston, Rosa, Bruton, they're all back. Wide receiver, they also mix up the depth chart here. Their second leading receiver last year, Kevin Sclarcius, was listed as a backup. Cam Ross is there, but their other two starters are Gordon Porter, a New Mexico transfer, and Brett Buckman, a Delaware transfer. Not sure what to make of that. They have like 18 co-starters at tight end. Offensive line here, I think, is going to be pretty good. They return 5 starters with experience here, losing just Jake Guidone. Defense only lost 3 starters. 2 of them were linebackers, so I do think this is a very good UConn defense. They will be challenged. NC State runs that unique scheme with Anai and Armstrong here. But overall, it's a lot of points for a UConn team, which is pretty balanced. Again, a lot of line movement, so 14.5 isn't my favorite number. I haven't played it personally, and the starting quarterback situation leaves me with some pause on UConn, but that would be the side I lean to at 14.5. If we get a positive number, I'll probably play the Huskies, but right now it comes in as just a lean. From there, we go to marquee game of the Thursday night slate. Florida, Utah. Unfortunately, injury clouds this game. Currently, and I stress currently, Utah is a -4.5. The total in the game is 44.5. I say currently because this spread has bounced everywhere. Utah opened as an 8 favorite. That was expecting Rising to play. It's gone down all the way to -3. That was when we thought Rising was out. And since then, the news really hasn't changed. We don't know with Rising. He didn't play in the scrimmage. He's not practicing in full. The coaching staff won't say one way or another, and they're not going to until kickoff, when literally you either see him warming up with the first team center or you see someone else. Have your finger on the trigger if you're going to bet during that time. Maybe sportsbooks will pull it. I don't even know. But right now, there's a lot of money, I think, on the Florida side, or potential money on the Florida side, that we can make. If we do not have Rising, this team is a disaster. They also lost their backup quarterback. You're going to be looking at a third-string signal caller here, and likely a run-based team with Jaquindon Jackson, Micah Bernard. I think that makes sense, especially behind a decent O-line. But they're going to be running into the strength of that Florida defense, where their defensive line should be amazing. You've got 3 good edge rushers back, some solid interior players, 2 good linebackers. Manny Nunnery comes in from Houston. The biggest concern is your secondary, so having Rising for Utah is extremely important for that team. And meanwhile, if Utah does not have Rising and they're focused on that run-centric game plan, that's going to be a huge issue. Meanwhile, with Florida, you turn to Graham Mertz at signal caller. I'm not excited about that. I'm not sure anyone is. You also don't have a lot of proven commodities at receiver, just basically Ricky Pearsall and a bunch of 3-star freshmen and depth guys. But you do have Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne at running back behind a good offensive line, which is rebuilt through solid players in the portal. We've got Baylor starters, Alabama transfers, Kiata Goodwin from Kentucky. Solid players here, so I expect this to be a good run unit. And contrary to popular belief, Utah's run defense, they were 74th last year. Their pass rush, 76th. You look at what this defense returns, they do have 3 starters on the defensive line coming back, but I mean, you do have some complete unknowns here. And these defensive starters on the defensive line weren't particularly good to begin with. So this is going to be an issue, I believe, especially against a very strong Florida rushing attack. Right now, if I had to bet the game, it would probably just be Florida on the money line. But right now, I think you can wait and see on the Rising news and potentially make a decision right before kickoff. I'm personally holding a Florida +8, which I grabbed in the summer when books just assumed that Rising would play, knowing that he tore his ACL in the bowl game. Thought otherwise, but we will see here. I'm going to continue to hold my Florida +8 and maybe look at some money line stuff depending on the news. Last one we've got here, Nebraska takes on Minnesota. Minnesota is a 7-point favorite. The total in the game is 43.5. I bet Nebraska +7.5. I'm completely fine with the 7, would take it right now. I think this Nebraska team might be better than Minnesota. The only issue here is you have a new coaching staff and a team remade through the portal, so it might take some time to gel. Rather than play the money line, that's why I'm happy to take the +7 points here. But you're going to hear a common misconception that Matt Rule doesn't care about his year 1 record. We've seen similar rebuilds with Temple and Baylor, where he had a really bad year 1 and turned it around quickly after that. This is a new era. This is the transfer portal era where you can rebuild your team through the portal. If Matt Rule didn't care about year 1, why is Nebraska ranked 27th in the transfer portal rankings? Why do they bring in Jeff Sims at quarterback, a strong rusher, capable passer, former 4-star recruit? Why do they bring in Billy Kemp, starting receiver, slot receiver from Virginia? Why do they bring in basically a whole new defensive line to replace the weaknesses they had on that unit? Matt Rule, I think, does care about win-loss record, and he does care about so immediately here. And because of the portal additions, I do think this team is better than Minnesota. Aside from those couple additions here, the offensive line has nowhere to go but up. You basically return 5 guys with starting experience. You add some really good transfers. Ben Scott, 2-year starter. Jacob Hood, former 4-star with Georgia. I mean, this team is going to be better on the offensive line, which isn't saying much. They were 80th in run blocking, 80th in run blocking, 129th in pass blocking. So that should be at least a little feather in their cap. Defense, again, like MJ Sherman, Chief Borders come in from Georgia and Florida. This defensive line is going to be much better. You return both your linebackers. 3 starting corners are back. They have 2 safeties that have experience. You did see Buford get hurt, but Corey Collier from Florida should aid in that. And then Minnesota, I mean, like, they didn't replace any of their departures. Tanner Morgan's gone. You move to Ethan Kaliak-Manis, former 4-star. I think he's fine. Your receiving room is fine too. The problem is you just don't run. Or excuse me, you don't pass the ball. All you do is run. And they basically promoted from within at coordinator, so I'm not really expecting changes here. You lose your top 2 running backs, Ibrahim and Potts. You go to Western Michigan transfer Sean Tyler, who I'm not excited about. Your offensive line lost your top 3 players, and you did nothing to replace them. They're just leaning on depth, and it's not Alabama with 4-star recruits behind them. This offensive line is going to take a step back. Defense, you lose 3 on the defensive line, 2 linebackers, 2 corners, and your top 3 safeties. I have no idea what this defense is going to look like this year, but last year they were 25th. And losing that many players, I'm expecting a significant step back, especially in the secondary where they were 8th in coverage. They're losing 5 starters. So again, this Nebraska team should be able to move the ball on them one way or another. And then finally, these are 2 slow teams to begin with. Minnesota plays at a snail's pace and they're run heavy. The clock rules do not help that. Nebraska is moving to an offense that will be similar, evidenced by their dual threat signal caller and Matt Rule coming in as head coach. So we're going to take the points. Nebraska plus 7.5 will be the play here. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you all very much. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Matt_Gajewski. We'll be back tomorrow breaking down the Friday slate, Saturday slate, Sunday slate, and the lone game on Monday, so make sure to check those out. Until then, good luck, and we will see you guys next time.